Marijuana comes from a plant called Cannabis sativa. The plant contains the active ingredient and mind-altering substance THC, or delta-9 tetrahydrocannabinol. THC and other compounds found in marijuana have the ability to affect your body both physically and mentally. THC is one of more than 60 active ingredients in cannabis. However, THC is the chemical responsible for most of marijuana's psychological effects. THC attaches to cannabinoid receptors, which are concentrated in certain areas of the brain and are associated with thinking, memory, pleasure, coordination, and time perception. The cannabinoids belong to a class of chemicals called terpenoids. These compounds are essential oils within plants. Synthetic versions of THC are legally prescribed. Many recreational drugs are termed neurotoxic. THC is known as neuroprotectant, meaning that in an appropriate setting, it can protect brain cells from damage caused by inflammation and stress. About 6.7% of teenagers smoke marijuana. Of adults 26 or older who used marijuana before 15, 62% went on to use cocaine, 9% went on to use heroin at least once, and 54% made some non-medical use of mind-altering prescription drugs. In 2007, 40% of men arrested tested positive for marijuana at the time of their arrest. Normally, the flow of ions in the neuron cell membrane creates an electrical current that produces voltage charges. The ability of this neuron to generate electrical impulses depends upon the charge inside and outside of the cell. The occurrence of a nerve impulse changes the electrical potential. This action potential is able to fire impulses multiple times every second. When voltages reach the end of an axon, neurotransmitters, the brain's chemical messengers, are released. Neurotransmitters ultimately bind to receptors on the surface of the target cell. Each of these receptors have a specific shape that recognizes a particular messenger. Once the neurotransmitter fits into this place, it triggers a response from the target cell. Cannabis contains molecules that resemble those produced in our very own brains. Cannabinoids are already present, though in much smaller quantities than when you are smoking. THC, the dominant chemical in marijuana, resembles the natural transmitter anandamide. Normally, neurons become temporarily unresponsive after firing to prevent them from becoming overactive or dominant. This allows your brain to act in a calm manner. Cannabinoids, however, interrupt this approach in some parts of the brain. Instead, they remove the refractory period of neurons that are already active and cause your thoughts, imagination, and perception to utterly magnify itself. This is the tripping or high most users feel, getting caught up on one idea and your neurons keep firing. In addition, cannabinoids increase the amount of dopamine neurotransmitters accepted by your brain's neurons, creating the sensation of relaxation and euphoria. THC is responsible for stimulating cells in the brain that release dopamine. THC interferes with how information is processed in the hippocampus, which is part of the brain responsible for forming new memories. THC can also be responsible for inducing hallucinations. On average, the effects of smoking marijuana last about 2 hours. Long-term motor impairment can be affected after the high is stopped, however. THC quickly travels from the lungs to the bloodstream and other organs. The high users feel is usually characterized by altered senses, altered sense of time, changes in mood, impaired body movement, difficulty with thinking and problem solving, and impaired memory. Long-term side effects include reduced thinking, memory, and learning functions. It can also affect how the brain builds connections. Marijuana addiction, like other disorders, requires treatment even though the long-term clinical outcomes are less severe. There are several behavioral treatments that have been effective. Cognitive behavioral therapy teaches recovering addict strategies such as how to improve self-control and how to stop drug use. Contingency management is a management approach that monitors the target behavior of an individual and rewards the individual when they reach the idolized behavior. Motivational enhancement therapy is a form of intervention that focuses on mobilizing the patient internally rather than treating the person altogether. There are no medications currently that treat a marijuana use disorder. Often when addicts quit smoking marijuana, they have sleep problems. Medications have been identified that help with this problem, including zolpidem. Also being studied is the supplement N-acetylcysteine and chemicals known as FAAH inhibitors, which work to inhibit the breakdown of the body's cannabinoids.